So start with the sale. Like if you're thinking, I have a good idea, just to get back to your question, if I have a good idea, how do I go from idea to concept? Well, basically, can you sell it? If you can't sell it, think of another idea.
Welcome back, everybody in podcast and YouTube land. My name is Wayne Veldsman, and you are listening to the Journey to Legacy podcast. Today, I interview Mr. Ben Jones of Titan Marketer and of Youth in Business. And he's starting a new gold mining prospecting company. They're actually buying up some mines. Ben is a wealth of knowledge. He started in business and entrepreneurship as a kid, despite his parents telling him to go the traditional route of school. He takes us through that journey, through where he started to actually started growing businesses, to then going into the rat race, having to escape the rat race again, and then everything about what he is doing today. There's a lot of actionable insights. And so if you have business on your mind, I know you're really going to enjoy this episode. So let's hop right on in with Mr. Ben Jones. Ben, how are you?
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Wayne. My privilege to be here. Really, really hope we can deliver some value to the listeners and anyone who is listening or watching. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, dude, appreciate you. Like, you do so many different interesting things, but kick us off just a little bit about yourself sort of today.
Probably the things I'm well known for today is Titan Marketer, where we actually help businesses grow and scale with YouTube advertising. We've done multiple seven figures. I speak all around the world on it. That's probably the big thing that most people would know me for. The other thing is I'm into gold prospecting and creating gold tenements and a whole bunch of stuff in the mining space. If you want to check any of that out, that's complete prospecting on minesforsale.net, which is kind of cool. And then youth in business. I'm very passionate about helping kids start businesses before they finish school and really getting out of the rat race before they've even entered it. And same thing, we've had kids do millions of dollars, buy houses before they're 18. One of our kids even wrote a book, How I Made More Money Than My Principal. I got to write the forward for it. It was pretty crazy. So they're kind of the main things, I guess you would say, that I'm known for.
Kind of the main things, just casually running, a big old marketing company specializing in YouTube ads, helping people make millions of dollars, gold mining, gold prospecting, and then of course, youth in business also, helping kids escape the rat race before they get into it. You make it sound so casual, Ben, but how do you manage time for all of these things? These are three huge projects, and it's not even all that you do.
Yeah, staff. Lots of staff. So yeah, you have to have a good team, right? Like a good team is what enables you to do it, because everyone has the same amount of time, right? So you just have to have a really good support network to help you with it. And that might come in the cost of business partners, or it might be like a bunch of staff to help you get it up off the ground. I mean, when I sort of put all that stuff into a couple of quick sentences, that's sort of 20 years worth of work and the end result of it kind of thing. Like, it's not like, hey, I did all this stuff in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? There was mistakes and failures and problems all the way. It sounds very romantic in a couple of sentences, but I guess to answer your question, having staff and having other people to do things and time is the one thing that you have to be really mindful of. So
nice. You mean when you say time, right? So I want to ask you about the staffing stuff. But when you say time is one thing you need to be really mindful of, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So for example, you can't get any more time. We all have, everyone has the same amount of time in a day. Like, you wake up and we go to sleep and there's 24 hours, everyone gets the same amount of time. However, I think that if you have a look at the top entrepreneurs in any space, right? The difference between their idea and them able to implement it is the support network they have behind them. So if Elon Musk said, hey, I want to go make electric trucks. Well, he already makes electric cars, for example, and I think he might already be doing that, but he already has the support network to just make that happen really, really quickly, right? And I think the distance between your idea and how quickly you can implement it is obviously the support network you have, the staff that you have, the people that you have. So time is irrelevant. Now, you can't buy time, and that I'm aware of, you can't buy any more minutes, but you can buy other people's minutes. So
Nice.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? So the importance of your support network, right? And then being able to almost multiply your time. And so people out there, right? Most of our listeners are entrepreneurs. And so if they're solo entrepreneurs still in the beginning, right? How can they start to find the correct people and then like relinquish control of stuff? Everybody has a lot of difficulty with that.
Yeah, I think the big thing that's a blessing for me is like school. Like I didn't like school very much. I could have done school, but I didn't really understand the whole point of it. To be perfectly honest, who cares what X is? And
Nice.
so I think like I left school kind of early, and for example, like I'm not the best at spelling. Do you know what I mean? Like I could have if I applied myself or whatever. But and I think like knowing how to fail is really cool, and finding people smarter than you. So for example, I married someone way smarter than me, and that kind of set the precedent. So I was like, man, look how good life is when you've got someone way smarter than you, right?
Nice,
And then I kind
nice.
of took that philosophy and put that into business. I was like, hey, I need someone to do this that's way better than me. How do we do that? And if you can find people that are way better than you in a certain thing, that enjoy doing the things that you don't, um, and be okay with them making a few mistakes till they get it right. Like, yeah, that's I guess I don't know if that's a quick way of
That's a
doing it,
great
but
answer. Yeah, I mean, I like that a lot. Find people that are way smarter than you, people that enjoy doing the things that you don't enjoy doing. And that piece of the puzzle where be okay with them making a few mistakes is so important also. What about like, let me ask you, like while you were growing these companies, let's think back 10, even 20 years, right? What was like
yeah.
your favorite part of the puzzle?
My favorite part of the puzzle was probably unlocking paid ads. That was probably my big thing. Because in any business, probably the big thing is you need to get lead flow, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah,
without
marketing.
leads, that any business is dead. Like, and leads is basically like traffic and eyeballs and attention. And I think for me, being able to pay for that, like, hey, I need more of this, and be able to pay for it profitably,
Yeah.
that's what was an amazing, like that was a big
Okay.
key. That I think a lot of
Nice.
businesses are like stuck in the, oh man, if I only had 5 more sales this month, or I only had this or that, whatever. Like when you can figure out like, well, if I pay X, I should make this. Most businesses are
You're
scalable
done.
as long as the profitability
Yeah.
of the business is there. So
Okay. Makes sense. So the paid ads specifically, but also because of like lead flow, that was sort of your favorite. And do you
yeah,
still physically do that today yourself?
I don't run my, like, well, I've got a whole team of humans.
Of
So
course. Yeah. That's kind of what I
yeah,
figured. And
so
sort of this is a leading question, if I can interrupt you, right?
yeah.
Asking what you liked so much, how did you relinquish control of that also, right? Because that's different than finding somebody that enjoys what you don't enjoy or that is so much smarter than you. How'd you relinquish control of that?
Yeah. So again, what we did there, like let's say they're called a media buyer. So we would, when we first sort of started, my partner and business partner and I, we would run a lot of the campaigns and all of that. And then we'd actually get someone to apply, but they had to beat us. So we would give them a certain amount of budget, and we would have a certain amount of budget. And if they could beat us or get a similar result, we would hire them. But if they couldn't, the answer was no. So again, hire people who are smarter than you. And then, for example, if you've got someone who's like, if you're already performing at a pretty high level, you might think that, and a business owner suffer from this whole like, no one does it as good as me, right?
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
guarantee you there's someone smarter than you and better at you than the thing that you want to do. And I think the other trap is like, even sales, like no one can close my business like I can. Well, you can. You get a superstar salesperson in, they will do a better job than you, right?
Yeah.
So it's just being able to afford that person is the key.
Mhm.
And obviously you have to do it incrementally as your business grows. But yeah, like replace yourself, get your time back, find people who are better than you to do the things that even if you want to do them. And another friend of mine, she says this perfectly. It's like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And if you look at that, like that's, just because you can doesn't mean you should. If you can get somebody else to do that, that's what you should do. And you should free up your time so you can spend it on growing the business or the next phase or finding the next problem that you need to overcome, whatever it is. So
Mm, I
does that answer your
like
question?
it does. Yeah, it answers it really, really well, actually, right? Because it still ends up being that same answer of finding people way smarter than you. I like how you guys sort of tested it also. And that's a great way to overcome this mindset of, oh, there's nobody out there that can do it the same as me or better than me, right? Like I know my business. Well, here's a good tactical approach is right. Try and bring people in and give them a test. See how well they can do these things actually. Because end of day, the biggest key is buy your own time back, right? Buy other people's time so that you can now focus on something else and keep growing, keep scaling. Am I missing any
100%.
pieces of that?
No, no, hands down, amazing.
Nice, love it. Ben, so you mentioned three different businesses, right? Let's rewind way back. How did you first get into entrepreneurship or just the idea of business?
Yeah, I think, look, I grew up on a farm, right? So the whole thing was, and my dad had some really cool lessons. Like he was like, nothing in life is free. So, we got a little bit of pocket money and stuff, but it wasn't enough to really do anything with. And I guess you could say I definitely came from like simple means, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
what we would find is that my brother and I, we would actually grow veggies and we'd sell them at the market. And that was really cool because it taught me a lot of principles about like patience, like reap what you sow. You got to weed it, you got to water it, you got to whatever. There was a lot of really cool lessons there. And as I got older, I was like, well, what else can I do? And I used to go stay at my grandma's house and I would literally like knock on doors and spray numbers on people's curbs as a service. And I'd do that for a day or two, and that would give me enough money for like my whole school holidays.
Wow.
And that was really cool because that taught me like how to sell, how to talk to strangers, how to like overcome all of that. And that's what I would do. I'd do that every school holidays, and that would give me enough money to do the things I wanted to do. But then I was quite entrepreneurial, but my parents and that weren't. So it was very much like, hey, you have to go to uni or you have to get a trade before you're allowed to leave home. And that's what I did. I ended up getting a trade and then figuring out how to enter the rat race and then having to figure out how to exit it later. Right. So
Yeah.
I think that's probably the key. Like, and that's why I'm so passionate about youth in business is if a child is showing initiative to sell, to get out there and do things and whatever, don't trap them in something where they've got to learn to swap their time for money. Like it's horrible.
Mm.
Teach them how to sell and create, and and then even if they start a business, they don't become millionaires, but they're doing something that they really enjoy and they're creating, like they'll be happy, and that is the whole point of life, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I think like that's where I kind of started is at a very young age, but I didn't really have the environment to support it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's interesting, right? So at a very young age, right, you started farming essentially, right? You and your brother were growing stuff and they go selling at the market. Love how that taught you patience also. Patience is so important. I talk about that with coaching clients way too much. But
Yeah.
it's surprising that you say that your parents weren't actually very entrepreneurial.
No, no, because
Huh.
business, or you got to go back in time. Like I feel like today, being an entrepreneur is like a sexy thing. Like I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a this, I'm a
Sure.
that, whatever. If you
Sure.
go back to the 90s, like business was risky. You know,
Mm,
you get a job, you get a stable job. Even better, you get a government job. Do you know what I mean? Like,
mm,
you
sure.
you do all the
Sure.
right
Sure.
things and you retire. That was pretty much,
Yeah.
the better job you got, the more successful you would be. And that was, I guess, the backbone of um, the culture that I grew up in anyway, where I was. Might have been different somewhere else, but today it's a little bit different. Like there's all the internet's out. This is pre-internet, right? Like the internet's here,
Of
and there's
course.
social media influencers, and being a boss mom or girl or boy or whatever is a
Sure.
whole
Sure.
thing,
Sure.
which just wasn't the case pre-internet.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I mean, so with that the case, because pre-internet, right, you essentially were learning what you were surrounded by, right? Your friends, your family, your school. Where did entrepreneurship come from? Like, it doesn't sound like you were surrounded with it that much.
no, I think I don't know. People ask, can entrepreneurship be taught, or is it just
Mm,
something that people have? And I've gone back and forth on this a lot. I
yeah,
think at the end of the day, you can learn any skill you put your mind to.
nice.
The end, right? So if you want to be
Yeah,
entrepreneurial,
yeah,
go start being entrepreneurial, right?
sure.
But are some people more genuinely athletic than others? Well, yeah, they are, right?
Yeah,
Are some people probably born more entrepreneurial than others? Yeah, that might be the case too. Um, I mean, realistically, I think it was, I never didn't really have a lot, and I knew that if I did these things, it would give me money to go out and get the things that I wanted. And that was probably more the driver. It wasn't the entrepreneur thing. It was like, I just want some money to do the things I want to do, right? So,
course.
I think the entrepreneur thing happened later, but yeah, that was
okay. So it seems like you're a little bit born with it. You were blessed with these skills and the realization of, you know what, let me do something for somebody else in exchange for money because I want to go buy things or I want to do stuff. I mean, that's the basis of business, right? Of entrepreneurship. And then of course you can get fancy, but that's the basis. Do you think people tend to complicate business and entrepreneurship in general?
I think so. Look, I think some people complicate it. I mean, at the end of the day, money is just an exchange of value, right? I have value, basically we exchange money for that value, right? And that's basically all it is. And I think entrepreneurship is just being able to find the value that you could provide to the world, but in whatever space that is. And I think what's really cool, and I call this the skill set of an entrepreneur. We talk a lot about this in youth and business, but I think it's a skill that you learn. Entrepreneurship is a skill that you learn, right? For example, if you got, say, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, let's say that Steve Jobs was still alive, Richard Branson, you got all these people and you literally, they all went bankrupt tomorrow. How long would it be before they were a millionaire again?
Not long.
Pretty quick, right? And the reason for that is they know how to turn their ideas into money. They know how to find value out there in the marketplace and swap something of value for somebody else's money. And that's the skill set of an entrepreneur. So, everyone has a million good ideas and the idea that could have made them a millionaire. The difference is the action to back it up, right?
Nice.
So,
yeah.
And I think that's the big thing. And that's where you get experience. You get experience in the action side of the idea. So I think everyone is entrepreneurial to a point, because if you talk to enough people, they're like, oh, I had this great idea and I never did anything with it. It's like,
yeah,
cool. If you go talk to a serial entrepreneur, they're like, I have 100 ideas. I can't even get to half of them. What's the difference? It's the action in the middle, right? So
yeah, truly. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I like this perspective, of course, like looking at some of the biggest entrepreneurs, business people you can think of. If they go broke, how long is it going to take for them to get back up onto their feet, millionaire? Not long, because they have the skill set. And then you determined that a big piece of this skill set is actually just taking action. I think you even said that we learn in the taking action. And so for everybody listening that has an idea, how can we get them to just start taking action? Because then it sounds like then they're going to learn, it's going to snowball, but it starts with action. How do we get them to start?
Yeah, so this is where, and this is good because you can do action, which is the wrong things. Like you can spend 3 weeks coming up with a logo and designing the perfect website and making sure that you got the right email signature, and you can spend 3 months mapping all of that out and have zero money come in, right? And this is where there's a couple of concepts here. We like to call it sell it before you build it. Okay. Or another way of saying it is, build the plane as you fly it. But here's the thing. Most startup entrepreneurs are going through the build your plane as you fly it situation. They start off with a small bit, then they strap another bit on, and away they go and it takes off. But at the end of the day, the fuel for this plane is sales. You cannot fly the plane, you cannot grow the business unless you actually have some money coming in, right? And a lot of people, when they start business or do business, they will do everything else except go out there and make the sale. So the way that we do this with kids is, like any kid who starts a business, they run our system, they make sales in the first 7 days, right? And the way we do it is we say to them, right, you start with $20. We should give them $20, or someone gives them $20. If you've got a kid, do this experiment. It's really cool to watch. You give them $20 and you say to them, well, how much can you turn that into in 1 month period with no instruction? Like you have no instruction. All you need to do is buy something, sell it, turn this into as much money as you can in a month. Now, the first time we did this, most of the kids would make like $100, $200, and somewhere around that sort of price point, right? And then, one kid did 500, and then one kid finally did 1,000. And I think this is the whole 4-minute mile, right? Like once they know, if you tell the kids, hey, look, most kids do 500, guess what they do? 500.
500.
If you say, hey, most kids do at least 1,000, guess what they do? At least 1,000, right? And what's really cool is I think the record at the moment is 5,400 or something like that in a 30-day period, with starting with nothing and just $20. And what they do in that period is kids are happy to fail. They'll try lots of things. They might sell some food. They might go do a service. They might go mow some lawns. They'll probably do like 5 or 6 things. And then what you do at the end of the month is and it's really cool when you get them to compete against each other as well. So you have like all the kids doing it. And then you're like, right, the winner gets this prize, whatever it is. That's really cool too. But yeah, like we literally have, I could go back and have a look, but just a ridiculous amount of kids that have done, we call it the 1K club, like doing $1,000 in their first month, like just all the names, right? And I think the cool thing with that is any kid can do that starting with $20, and they don't have half the resources that an adult has, right? So for all those business owners who tell me it's hard to sell their thing, I usually turn around and be like, when was the last time you actually asked for some money on this? And you'll just get blank looks, right?
Yeah.
So start with the sale. Like if you're thinking, I have a good idea, just to get back to your question, if I have a good idea, how do I go from idea to concept? Well, basically, can you sell it? If you can't sell it, think of another idea. So
nice. Easy. Awesome examples. I mean, so cool to hear about youth in business, that you guys start with such a simple concept as well, right? $20, get supplies, whatever, buy something and resell that thing also, whatever it might be, right? Very little instruction at the beginning. But your overarching answer here that I asked about how to get people to take action, it's interesting that it's not just start to take actions, take action on the right things. And the right things is start with sales, right? Sell it before you build it. That resonates with me way more than build the plane as you're flying, right? Because that's like well, how is that possible? You can't do that all. But sell it before you build it. And that's another great way for people to think about, okay, my idea that I have, am I able to sell it, right? Can I make money from it? And if the answer is no, think of a different idea.
perfect. Exactly. And there's lots of ideas, right? So not all ideas are created equal. And this is just a really good way to test if you're on the right track.
Yeah, really good way to test it. I like it. And so you started in business super early, right? Entrepreneurial kid. And I know you mentioned to us a little while ago that your parents influenced you to sort of go to college some, get a regular job, and then you had to re-escape the rat race. Tell us a little bit more about that piece of your life.
Yeah, look, so I actually became an electrician, and quite a well-paid one. I got really skilled, and I was doing oil and gas and mining and all this stuff. And then what happened is I kind of in the end, I think I was earning about 150 grand a year working 6 days a fortnight or something like that.
Wow.
And I was like, I didn't know how old I was, 26 or 27 or something. Because I just kept upskilling. I just kept getting more, more tickets and more things and whatever. And you kind of get to the top, and I was like, well, I either go become an engineer or I cap out here. And I got a really comfortable job. And the problem with a great life is a good life, right? And but then it was boring. Like there was nothing else to achieve. I was just stuck in this thing, and I was like, well, what do I do? And I think I mentioned just before the call, I actually went to uni for a while. I was like just a bit lost. I went and studied psychology for a couple of years. And then I found that people would come tell me their deep, dark secrets, and the world was a very dark place. And I was like, this is not something I want to do. And then I think like a lot of entrepreneurs, like I just started reading, like it was like, I don't know where to go or what to do. So I started reading books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and lots of other books like that. And I started to get into, I was like, right, property is the answer. And then so we sort of started to buy a few properties and do a quick couple of renos and that sort of thing. And then I was doing that with my brother sort of as a side hustle. And that's a good thing. Like go do a side hustle. If you have a full-time job and you're not sure, go do a side hustle. They're great. And then what really took it to the next level was my brother was like, hey, there's these guys teaching how to buy online businesses. And this is going back a ways. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's do that. And I think in our first year, we bought 30 online businesses or something mental.
Wow. Wow.
And yeah, not all of them were great purchases,
Sure.
but a few of them were. And what that taught me is I had to learn online skills and like marketing skills and all the things for these businesses. And then we ended up selling them off a little bit later. But the cool thing that lesson, so that really let me leave the job. At that point, I was making enough money to leave the job. And the mistake I made there is I stayed in the job way too long. Looking back on it, I probably could have left 5 years before and just figured it out. And then I'd be 5 years ahead of where I am now. But I stayed too long. And I think that's what a lot of people who are in jobs at the moment, and I think Kevin O'Leary said it, he had a great quote where it was like, salary or wage is the price they pay you to keep you from your dreams. And I was like, for me anyway, and look, if you're on a salary or you're doing a job, that's cool. Not everyone, wants to go be the business owner. But for me, I was a business owner, an entrepreneur trapped in an employee's body, and it just didn't work. So I was looking for ways out, and I eventually got there, and it's been up and down ever since. But I think like you've got to leave the rat race and that comfortable, secure blanket of having paycheck after paycheck to, am I going to get paid this month? Eat what you kill mentality. It's you actually need to think completely differently to make that switch. And sometimes the quickest way is to just pull the band-aid off and get it happen. So,
man, Ben, you're a very interesting guy, my friend, honestly. Like you said, going like apprenticeship, becoming an electrician, becoming one of the almost capping out like the highest paid electrician that you could be, to realizing this quote that I wrote down: the problem with the great life is the good life, right? It's like you're living a good life, and that's what's holding you back from living a great life. And then you gave the tip of start a side hustle, which is great. And it's actually, your story is that you guys started making so much money that it replaced your day job, and so it was easy to leave. So I think that often is a great tip for people if they're scared. Start something on the side and build up. But then you flipped and you said you wish that you had just taken the leap 5 years earlier. Do you have a recommendation? I mean, you sort of did one recommend the other. I don't know.
I know everyone's got their own journey, right? And hindsight's 2020 vision. We all look back on our lives and like, oh, how cool would it have been if I had done this thing earlier, or whatever it was, right? And I think, just if I take the analogy of like the best time to plant an oak tree was 100 years ago, the second best time is today, right? And I think like if I take that sort of premise and look at like what happened there, because even once I decided I was going to do a side hustle, it took me over 5 years or 6 years or something to figure out how to get it to happen to a point where I could. And I was working crazy hours, like I was working, and then I had this part-time thing, and then I was working, and it was just this constant thing. And, like you're trying to have your focus on 2 or 3 things at once, and you're trying a whole bunch of different stuff. Like it was a very confusing period, but the lessons that you learn through that, I think, are really important. And if I had of just bit the bullet and be like, no, and backed yourself. And I think there's a really cool story of like people go to conquer. I think it was in the South Americas. There was this guy that went to, conquer, and I'm going to get the countries all wrong and the story wrong. But basically the story goes, all the people wanted to go home, and they're like, nope, we need to burn our ships behind us. And they burned the ships, and they figured it out, and they made it back, right? Because there's just no retreat. And I think if I had to put myself in a situation where there was no retreat, I would have come out really, really well. But I didn't know that about myself then. That was a journey I had to go through and learn. So, and everyone's different. So, don't like go quit your day job tomorrow because Ben said it was a great idea, and then all of a sudden you got all problems. If you've got nothing to sell and you can't you haven't even got like a glimmer of hope of how that's going to happen, like at least get halfway down the path of being able to sell things. And if you did quit and you put more effort in, this could happen, maybe have a look at it. But yeah, everyone's risk tolerance is different, right? Like everyone's got to make their own call on that. So
yeah, absolutely. No, it's just interesting, right? Especially when you said like you did it one way, but you wish you had done the other way. Of course, hindsight is 2020. But there at the end, I think that's a great piece of advice, right? Is don't quit your job for the dream, the theory of owning your own business. At least have the idea, sort of test the market. Is it legitimate? Can it work? And then
can you make a sale?
And make a sale. Yeah, exactly. Make a sale. Prove to yourself, hey, wow, this is actually legitimate. Not somebody that just says, I would buy that, right? And then they don't fork over the money. Right?
Have the money in the account. Yeah.
Have the money. I love that. And so Ben, let's fast forward a little bit more to today. Talk to us about Titan Marketing. What are you guys focused on? Who exactly are you serving?
Yeah, look, so basically we used to do a lot of consulting, but we're just a full-blown agency at the moment. So we just we basically just come in and run advertising. And in particular at the moment, YouTube is really the place that we're seeing is getting the best results. And we do run, ads multi-platform, Facebook search. But realistically, when you put it all into a bubble, YouTube is the opportunity that is slamming everyone in the face. So you can just do some really cool things there. Like you can target people based on income. So how much income does someone have? Let's target the person based on how much money they have. Can't do that anywhere else. Target people based on intent. What are they buying? Steal people's competitors. Heaps of cool stuff you can do on YouTube. You just can't do anywhere else. So we help businesses grow and scale with that. And it's kind of where Facebook was a decade ago or Google was 2 decades ago. Like if you had got into those platforms at those times, that would have been amazing. And maybe in another 5 or 6 years or 10 years, maybe Google's not the thing and TikTok figures out their targeting, and then all of a sudden it might be TikTok. But at the end of the day, like all of those platforms have an adoption curve. So just be in the right spot on it. And anyway, so we help a lot of business owners scale with YouTube advertising. That's kind of our main thing that we do. And yeah, it works really well. So in terms of who would engage us, probably people who are already running Facebook ads and already running search ads, and they're either looking for another platform to it, or they're just wanting to really scale what they already have going on. So they're probably the main people. Usually we work with people who are B2B, B2B service-based businesses or coaches and consultants. They're kind of the main people that we work with, speakers. But yeah, any of your, any of your service-based businesses that are going to be like roofers, like those trade-based, service-based people who are just wanting more leads, solar, credit, all of that kind of stuff. So dentists. Nice. So that's sort of who we serve, is more the B2B lead generation side. We don't do a lot of the e-commerce stuff in YouTube. So if you're e-com, like it's good, but you probably want to move more to Google Shopping. But yeah, anyway, so that's sort of who we serve and how we do it. But yeah, it's been pretty fun. I often speak at a few events. People will get us in and book us in to speak on YouTube ads to different crowds. And yeah, it's been a cool journey to, and I think it's the extension of youth in business really in the adult world. So for example, I really like taking kids and watching them grow and expand a business, right? It's so cool to watch, whereas, and I really get a lot of kick out of that. And in the business world, being able to see a business that's, like, hey, we need more leads or sales or whatever, and then watch them grow and scale through paid advertising, like the quickest way you can do it. Yeah, it was really cool. So I got a big kick out of that, and that's why I do it. So
beautiful. Love it a lot. Yeah, so tons of B2B service-based businesses. You're helping them scale. Like you said, it's the quickest way actually to grow. So Ben, as we start to sort of wrap up the interview here, I want to talk a little bit about your future. I mean, what do you see is next for you in regards to either Titan marketing? I know the gold mining, we didn't even really start to prospect that piece of your business or your life.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's next?
What's next? So look, I think I'd like to continue with Titan. I really enjoy, like I said, watching businesses grow. For youth in business, we want to be helping as many kids as we can leave the rat race before they start. So we have a bunch of free training and different things, and we just want to get as many kids involved in that. And then I think really what's next, I've got obviously some targets I want to hit with Titan. I want to hire a few more people and sort of really scale that up. But on the gold side, on the mining or the lease side, we want to increase our holdings in gold tenements, which we've been doing at the moment, which is going really well. And then we want to actually move into processing. So I think I mentioned before, we're literally at the moment looking at ordering a processing plant at the moment and literally starting to create our own little gold mine. Like it's not massive by the terms of like big, huge gold mines or anything like that. Sure. But yeah, one day I'd like to get there. I think it'd be cool to have like my own gold mines just smelting down and giving me gold bars. I could get down to getting paid that way. So
that sounds pretty cool. Like yes, I mean
yeah, I get down to that. So yeah, so I guess they're kind of the main ones is obviously just grow the business that I have, but more importantly, like I think I'd probably at the moment I want to spend more time with family and still keep doing holidays and things that we do. And I've got 4 kids, and that's kind of my big priority at the moment. And I think the Godfather said it best: is the true measure of wealth is in children. And nice. So I probably want to spend a bit more time With family, because they won't be around forever. My
Course.
son's taller than me now, so.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, just keep enjoying life, I guess, and helping as many people along the journey as I can. So
Enjoying life, helping people on the journey. I mean, scaling type marketer. So exciting what's happening with the gold mining stuff as well. And then you sort of went the perfect direction that I wanted you to go, that I always like to end my episodes with, is talking about legacy. And so tell us in your mind, Ben, what does legacy mean, and what's the legacy you're trying to leave on this world?
legacy I want to leave on this world is that we should create more entrepreneurs when they're young. Like that is the big thing. We need to teach kids entrepreneurship. And here's my thing. Like if you can teach kids, if you give them $20, right, and they can turn it into $50 or $100 in a week, we could literally end homelessness, right? End poverty in general. Because what we would then allow people to do is they would then have the skills, again, coming back to the skill set of an entrepreneur, they would have the skills to then go out and be self-sufficient. They would be able to provide value, find an opportunity, provide value, help someone in some way, be rewarded for it, and with money or whatever it might be. And we would just have a way better economy, right? So that's my dream for the future, is to teach kids entrepreneurship. And I think the legacy I want to leave behind for my future generations would be any of the wealth or any of the things that I would hand down or whatever, however that works. And like if you look at any of the great, the way that wealth works is usually it only lasts 3 generations. So even if I make like $1 billion and I hand it down, in 3 generations it's usually disappeared, right?
Yeah.
And why is that? Because they're not given the skills to learn how to start businesses or learn how to invest or really taught how money works in any way. So I think what I would like to do, in the legacy I would like to leave, is any of my posterity going forward is enabled with the skill set of an entrepreneur before they're an adult. And if that was the case, I think my legacy, in terms of once I'm dead and gone, that my prosperity will raise themselves up. And if nothing else, even if they're not millionaires, they have the skill set to create maybe a business or a lifestyle around what they like doing, exchange value for it, and be happy.
And that's a wrap, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. If you got some value out of today's episode, please share it. Share it with a friend, a family member, a colleague. Help us to grow the show. Help us to grow Ben's businesses. Absolutely amazing. Let me know some of the top takeaways. Please shoot me a message. He talked about the importance of having a support network around you, right? Like having a team to multiply your own time, right? Knowing how to failing well, finding people that are smarter than you. He said that nothing in life is free. It's something that his dad taught him. Man, talking about sell it before you build it. That's such a great piece of advice. Everybody out there, if you have an idea, shop it around, sell it, take pre-orders before you build it, right? Last thing you want to do is spend 4 to 6 months to a year of your life building something that after you're finished, nobody even wants it. It's a really, really great piece of advice. So thank you all once again for being here. I greatly appreciate you. If you're listening in, chances are good you can still come join the Journey to Legacy community. Visit us over at journeytolegacy.org. Super excited to see you on the inside. It's a group of like-minded individuals all focused on growing themselves personally, professionally, and financially as well. Thank you so much for being here today. Until next time, my name is Wayne Veldsman. You've been listening to the Journey to Legacy podcast.